Move out.
This was supposed to be a rescue mission.
It would appear there is no one left to rescue.
Exercise extreme caution.
What is it? I thought I heard something.
We're at Bridge Studios, and this is Stargate, and this particular episode is entitled The Tomb, although it should be entitled the Walking Around the Tunnels with the Flashlight episode. A fun episode where we go to another planet, and we go into this ancient structure that has a flimsy ceiling that keeps leaking on us. We've got guys up in the rafters, and every so often we'll have people sort of just dropping dirt to represent how weak the ceiling is.
This doesn't seem very stable.
It's over 4,000 years old.
Then they find out, in fact, if you'll come over here with me, that there's an animal in here who would like nothing more than to eat them alive. This is the cocoon for which it came out of, and we find out that pesky old enemy, the Gould, has infested this particular beast, and so we have a ferocious, carnivorous, piranha-like being with a Gould symbiote inside of it.
It's around here somewhere.
And this animal has been existing in this tomb for 4,000 years inside the personification of the god, the Babylonian god known as Marduk. And he was eaten alive in his sarcophagus.
Shouldn't we open this first, make sure there's no one home?
Teal'c, have you ever seen anything like this?
Indeed, I have not.
So over here we have the sarcophagus in which we find Marduk. The beast was thrown in here with Marduk, with the Gould inside his head, and then closed over, and his followers, who didn't like him very much, strapped him in there. The beast continuously ate him as the sarcophagus replenished him. So he was dying and being replenished. Dying was being eaten, constantly eaten.
Something ate this guy?
The Gould left the host body, the humanoid host body, and went into the beast that was actually killing it.
Better question is, where is it now?
You might recognize this sarcophagus. It's been in many episodes. Apophis was in this, and we used this sarcophagus in Need. And Hathor came out of this sarcophagus as well. We're at lunch now, and Richard Dean Anderson is under this pile of rocks. Richard, do you want us to get you a sandwich? That's okay, I'm fine. So we like to keep the rocks in continuity, so we can't allow him to get up. And these are quite heavy. I mean, I can lift them, they are made of styrofoam, but you wouldn't want to get knocked in the head, especially if one was thrown from one of these rafters. In this scene, it required a fair amount of stunts and some heavy-duty stuff like that.
But if you give me that warning, I can be looking up to see when it's coming so I can be so close.
Dan Shea did the first part of the cave-in, and then for the turnaround, Richard Dean Anderson did something equally as dangerous. He stood under quite possibly 200 pounds worth of plastic-coated styrofoam. And action!
Colonel O'Neill.
So we got Richard Dean Anderson out of the shot, and in fact went into this room and tied him in. It's always great to do a tie-in. A tie-in is anything that literally does what it says, ties in your actor to the actual action. Sometimes we have clean POVs, and Richard Dean Anderson is off in the Bahamas. But every once in a while we get to tie in Richard Dean Anderson to the actual stunt.
Yeah, I'm okay.
The bigger pile in the back was what we think is the demise of our bad guy, but in classic horror film form, he comes back and the hand sort of just comes out, and we realize that he's not quite dead. I don't know if you recognize this slant, but in fact, this is the mothership because it has a pyramid shape. When you turn, you begin to see this big, black, beautiful, pyramid-like aqueduct finish, and this is the kind of stuff you'll see in the mothership. And these hallways were all mothership-ish, and then they were covered over with the stone.
Carter,
How do you know where to go in a place like this?
So this giant V that we're looking at is the front of a Peltac, and traditionally Apophis or even Kronos would be sitting there on his throne, and he'd be yelling orders at his Jaffa. You might even see a shot over a shoulder of an evil bad guy, and then over here you would see a space window and a big planet, or even a giant curtain, which we like to call the starfield. It's nothing more than just a big giant piece of black velvet with little pieces of sparkles on it. This is another example of how we were able to reuse sets and get the most production bang for our production dollar.